right, welcome back to our second episode, Paul, of Talking Around with Paul and Jill.
Absolutely. Okay, so we thought for this episode, we wanted to give you some idea of ourselves and let you know about our background and...
Look, what are we doing?
Yes, exactly. So let's start with you.
Oh, wow. Easy.
You see, this is what happens because I'm used to interviewing people.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I suck at being interviewed. So I would rather...
guys, because he's on radio all the time, he doesn't want to be interviewed.
Yes.
So I think it's my turn to interview Paul.
Okay.
So, Paul,
Wow.
What is your ultimate favorite thing to do besides being on radio?
So I'd probably say like going to the crickets, any sporting event really, but like mainly cricket and football. Like if I can go and watch a football match or a cricket match, football, not soccer.
Okay. What is the difference? Come on. What is the difference between football and soccer? What's football?
The sport is called football. America came along and they did American football, which is not even played with your feet, it's played with your hands.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that. And then what? Because they need to differentiate between the two, they called it soccer. No, it's football.
It's football. Okay.
It's played with your feet.
Oh, I get it. Football.
What they play is American soccer, okay?
Yeah, it's American soccer. Okay, so you like sports
yes,
and
love
you love
sport.
food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what if I should make you your ultimate favorite meal?
Yes.
What would it be?
Oh, do you know I'm so simple? I really am a simple person.
As long as it's not chicken livers.
As long as the 3 O's I stay away from: oysters, organs, and olives. But although olives, I'm starting to eat olives on pizzas, so I'm kind of getting into that. But yeah, I'm a very simple guy. Like, I love a cheese and bacon burger.
Really?
Oh, I just love a cheese and... I know, it's very simple.
It's simple.
I love pizza, and I love a really good steak.
Good steak, okay.
Maybe some good ribs too. Yeah, there's a joke about guys are very simple. You just give them a beer, let them sit in front of the TV and watch sport and give them food. Yeah. And that's literally me.
And that's literally a way to a man's heart as well.
Totally.
So it's a burger. Any sauce on it? Was it just bacon and cheese, or would you like a pepper sauce on it? Would you?
Maybe not a pepper sauce. Maybe more like a mayo type sauce.
Oh, yeah, because mayo is your favorite.
Yeah, there we go.
And are you, for all the single ladies out there, are you attached? Are you married? Are you in a relationship?
I am attached. I'm divorced, and I currently have a girlfriend. We've been together for, 2.5 years? And yeah, we are living together, and that's my status.
So, sorry ladies, he's attached, unfortunately.
And what about you?
I'm married. I'm married now for, this year would be 18 years.
Yes.
18 years married.
Wow.
No kids of my own. Gary has a daughter though. We went through that journey, so that's part of my journey. We tried. I had 5 miscarriages, which it's very, it's a topic I would like to touch on. Because a lot of women suffers with fertility issues, and society makes us feel that we are less of a woman because we can't have kids, which is so not true. And I must say, my relationship with Gary and my marriage was always based on the fact, and he would always almost reinforce it, if I can put it that way, and say, Jill, I married you. Yes, it would have been great to have a kid and to show our love for each other. There's the produce or the product of your love. But I married you.
Yes.
So whether you can or not, and it really affects you as a woman. Eventually, you kind of feel like, oh, am I capable? And you try and prove so much more, and you try and do so much more because you have to almost kind of prove yourself. And
make up for it.
Make up for it in some kind of way. So you iron his clothes and pack his bag when he goes away, and you do all these amazing things, and then eventually you realize, but I'm so much more than that.
Yes.
But it takes time. And for me, my journey took a lot of time. We did it for 5 years. I had the most amazing doctor. The support structure and of the clinic that I was at was totally amazing. His wife is a psychologist, so for free, they would counsel you. And she would literally not sit with a book and a pen. And the best part of it all is that as husband and wife, he's the fertility doctor, she's a psychologist, they've also been through the journey. They've also had miscarriages. So they know exactly what you're feeling. And at times, I think that is so needed in this sometimes uncruel and unkind world. This, not uncruel, but cruel world that we live in, that you need that kind of support. And there's a lot of women that do need that support. Yeah. So that is a part of my journey. A lot of things has happened, a lot of things... Yeah, and I wrote a book about it.
Yes.
I wrote a book about it. Yeah.
About the book, for those who don't know, interesting name, so the Epicurean Journal. So just tell us about the name.
So Epicurean basically means somebody that indulges in fine food and wine. So it's almost like you are... I'm going to use it almost like a prostitute to good food and wine. You indulge, you love, great food and good wine. And I keep the recipes very simple because it reflects the simplicity of my life. Yes. But it's still good food, and it is about my family that is love. And my family is definitely love. It supported me through many things in my life. And the next one would also probably be the Epicurean Journal, but Friends are Love.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2. Friends are Love. So you're going to be in the next one.
I love that. I love that. I've never had like a part in a book or, a song or something.
So I've been playing.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm playing with the idea, and because I'm going to have a breakfast section in this book, but this is just very more of a story with each recipe having a story.
That's what I wanted to touch on as well, is the fact that, I mean, a lot of people just do a recipe book or just do an autobiography. Yeah. You combine the two. It's very cool.
Yeah, because food is such a huge part of my life.
Yes.
It's the kitchen is the one place where I find refuge, and I could think clearly, like I said in the previous episode, when, my husband makes me angry, I go chop some onions and then you feel great, and you just kind of work through it. And it's because I know in that space, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yes.
And in times of turmoil, you need something.
Familiarity.
Yes. And you need something that you're good at, that you can't really fail at.
Do you know, I actually understand what you mean, because to be honest with you, when I'm going through a tough time in my life, when I'm actually doing my show and I'm in studio, I completely forget about it for that 4 hours or whatever it is that I'm doing the show. And then when I finish the show, I walk out and I suddenly realize I'm back to reality again. Yeah. So I get that.
And I've been in studio a few times, as you know, and I can completely relate to that. I can be how tired when I walk into studio because my feature's very early in the morning. But the moment I walk in there, it's like you're living in a bubble. You're in a space where there is. It's almost like you're living. This the saying that they go, you live in a Fanta can or something, you live in a fantasy world. It's almost like that.
Yes.
It's you and the mic. Mm-hmm. You don't see the thousands of people that's listening to you, but somebody's listening to you.
Absolutely. And also, you're so focused on what you're doing that you forget about everything else, really.
Yeah, and you need to sound great all the time. And you do sound happy. I think you smile when you speak, eh?
It also largely depends on you enjoying the music that you're playing and enjoying the content that you're putting out. If you're doing that, then you actually really do enjoy what you do. And when you enjoy what you do, it comes out in your voice. It makes people feel that, wow, this guy's actually excited to be here.
And you don't sound different on radio as what you sound in
reality. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
You don't have that, I'm Paul played in 4, You just sound familiar. You sound warm, and that is something. And I love the retro countdown. Oh my word! That is one of my favorites.
That was actually. I was at the point where I was thinking every chart show is a chart show and nothing else. I mean, how can we make this different? And then I thought about the fact that I grew up listening to chart shows and I loved them, and I loved the music that was around at that time. And I thought to myself, how can I relive that? So I thought, let's go back into time and pretend it is that day, listening to that music on that chart show.
So you actually made your own little time machine.
Yes, and that's where it came up. Right. And I initially thought that the station weren't going to go for it. And when I pitched the idea, I got the green light and I was like, yes!
And when you said that, it took me back to literally back in the day. You remember we had that double tape?
Yes. And you used to sit and record.
And you sit and record from the radio.
Yeah.
That brings back a lot.
But that was me. So, I mean, the way I got into loving radio was, first of all, I think I was about 9, 10, and I was walking around with a red Walkman. And I only had one cassette. And that one cassette was like Monster Hits 3.
Oh, wow.
Those are the only 18 songs I knew. You know what I mean? Or 18 or whatever. I can't remember how many songs, but those are the only songs I knew. And then I also knew about Phil Collins and Elton John and Celine Dion because of my mom.
Okay.
Not so much actually Celine Dion at the time. It was more Phil Collins and Elton John. Celine Dion came later, but my mom liked Celine Dion. So it was Celine Dion's Falling Into You album. It was Boys to Men 2 from my brother. It was Word of Mouth from Mike and the Mechanics. And it was just like stuff like that. And my dad loved the Beach Boys. So like
I was just going to say that because I grew up with the Solid Gold album.
Yes.
My dad always playing. I love the Beach Boys. I love the Beatles.
Yes.
And the music made a lot more sense back then.
Yeah.
The lyrics and the sounds and I can remember.
It was simple though. I mean, it was simple and easy, but...
And Elvis, I mean, really,
exactly.
Elvis was... So you said you were walking around with a Walkman at the age of 9. I was cooking at the age of 9.
You see, that's where your passions begin.
Yeah.
And I mean, what happened was, then you get into other things. You get into sport. I mean, that's why I love sports so much. My brother was a big football fan, a West Ham fan, and my whole family are West Ham fans. I don't know how I ended up being a Man United fan. I think I had a friend...
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I had a friend who was a Man United fan, and I think I just followed United from him, but then I became addicted and I became passionate about them, and I football meant more to me and sport meant more to me than music at that point. And then I got more into music when I was around 15, and there was the Fanta World Chart Show on 5FM back in the day. 5FM.
Wow.
And I said to my sister, like, what should I listen to? I don't know. I don't know radio stations. I don't know what music to listen to. What's cool? She said Radio 5. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I don't have a radio. Wow. So she's like, we had this old hi-fi. These old hi-fis where you got the cassette, you've got the record player, no CD at the time.
No CD at that time, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a big brown thing.
Or the black one.
With the tall speakers, yeah. So my sister's like, I'm sure we still have this somewhere. We dug it out of the garage and I set it up in my room.
And it had like a little aerial that was like a lead almost kind of thing, I remember that because my dad would always play his records on there, and it's called records, right?
Yes.
And I would listen to him actually sing it, and it brings back really fond memories when you're speaking about that kind of setup that you had in your home.
Yeah, and I would do my homework listening to the presenters at the time. Sasha Martinengo, Barney Simon. They would do the late night radio. I'm now doing the show. I loved chart shows from a very, very young. I never ever thought that I would do a chart show for this past week. It was my completion of my 14th year.
Wow.
Doing the same chart show. And I never ever thought I would get to that point. And now I'm doing the evening show, the time slot that I grew up listening to. And the other day somebody said, oh, my daughter's just finished doing her homework while listening to your show. And it just took me it was a flashback.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I did.
And now you are influencing those minds.
And it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. You actually start to see the cycle of life.
I think we're giving away our age.
I know. But anyway, that's how it came about. And then I was doing my homework and I remembered how that presenter made me feel, and I thought to myself, I want to do that.
And that's exactly what you're saying. People forget what you have done for them. It's something I carry through life, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Very true.
So that's why I always say I need to be kind. I always constantly feel that I need to be kind. I need to think kindness. And I'm getting a bit deep in this, but it's just how like I said, your voice earlier, it's so familiar. It's how you made me feel, and how you bring it across. And you literally, to me, when I picture you in studio, I picture you literally sitting like this and speaking. So
very often, actually, what I've considered doing is I should start TikToks where I'm TikTok living and I am jamming to my favorite song in studio. You'll see the air drums come out, the air guitar come out.
Oh, I need to be there for that.
I literally treat the mic like I'm on stage.
Oh gosh, I want to do a recording of that. But yeah, it's fun, as our lives has. Not saying that it hasn't been a bed of roses or there hasn't been thorns on the roads, but you are that influencer. Like influencer word has been used so easily today, but you are influencing someone else at a tender age. I want to be Paul Clayton one day when I grow up,
It's so weird to think that. It's so weird to think anybody would think that. There's a listener of mine whose son was 6 years old when I started at Heart. He's matriculated already.
Yeah, he's 20 now.
And that's scary. He grew up with me.
And I guess he wants to be a producer or a host one day. But it's true. Like I had some of the staff that has obviously moved on that worked for me before. There's a guy and he calls me mom. Oh God. But he calls me mom and he will phone me, Mom, today, and he started his own little business. Yes, he also got a food truck and a food trailer, and he would say, Mom, I remembered what you said. And I think about you and Dad all the time. Not that we are his parents, but I think about you all the time. And now it only makes sense when we said, your friends don't put food on your table. Your friends don't do this, Be more alert in the kitchen, wastage, those kind of things. He says, now that I run my own business, I constantly hear your voice, And I said, that is the one thing. And I think the book initially started with me wanting to leave a legacy because I don't have kids. Everybody wants to leave something behind. But when I hear all of this from all the different staff, I think I've already left a legacy.
It's a good feeling. Actually,
it's a really, really good feeling to know what we are actually getting ourselves into, and where we are going in life.
You said that you started cooking at like 9 years old, around there. You're in the kitchen from a young age. Do you think that's important, getting kids to learn how to cook and be in the kitchen early on in life? I mean, the kitchen's a dangerous place.
It is a dangerous place. And I've had episodes in our industrial kitchen where people actually chase each other with knives. But
kids need to know how to
work in the kitchen, how to handle, and chores. I think it's a good structure. I don't think, for me, it was more of, my parents were both working. I've got a younger sister, so I was the one that would cook, and I would be the one that clean and make sure that her homework is done. And so it was more of a chore, but I also enjoyed and loved spending the time with my mom in the kitchen when she was off. A lot of things that they couldn't teach me at culinary school, which I picked up from my mom and my granny, and that's important. And flavors, and they literally cultivated our taste buds from a very young age. They took us to stunning restaurants. We know from just local spur to a fine dining restaurant. And my love for seafood started at a very young age. So you'll see the book's got a lot of seafood in it.
Lovely.
It really explains my family. But my love for lobster or crayfish, as we know it, and prawns and mussels, and that started from a very young age. Because there was a restaurant, and I speak about it in the book, called the Lobster Pot in Sea Point.
Okay.
It was on the beachfront, close to the lighthouse. It was, I know we had to go upstairs. And that was my very first fine dining restaurant. I could have been at about 4 or 5 years old, because my sister was a baby and we've got a 4-year gap. And they put in front of me this lobster. And I was like, oh my gosh, And my mom looked at me and she says, do you know what to do? And I'm like, I'll figure it out, at 4 or 5 years old. And I figured it out. I just said I don't like the bones and the legs and
the shell.
But, and my dad would show me, you break it open and this, if it's cooked well, you'll see the meat comes out. And I can attribute a lot of my inspiration from my parents.
And when did you decide, okay, now I want to be a chef. Now I want to take this further?
Okay, so I actually never wanted to be a chef, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be a criminal lawyer.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I always.
So you watched a lot of
Not really.
Okay.
I just had this thing in my mind from a very young age that I want to make life easier for people and those that hurt others. As a child would think, if you hurt me, you need to pay for it, and I want to be that person that's going to put you in jail. Never ever knowing that I would be that person that was hurt or violated or, go through that.
So this was before that?
This was long before. I think I was like 7 years old when I knew I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. And then we had a visit from one of our ministers at church, and they said to me, that lawyers lie and they go to hell. And I was like, oh my gosh.
There's actually there's a great skit with Rowan Atkinson where he's acting as, is it St. Peter? The one at the gate, the pearly gate?
Yes.
And he actually says, liars and thieves, join here. And lawyers, you can join it.
So my friend that wrote the foreword in my book, Joy van der Heide, she's actually a lawyer. She's a magistrate now. And she's slightly older than me. And then I realized, but Joy's being a lawyer. Why couldn't I, But because food was so prevalent in our lives and cooking, and my mom would cook for weddings, family weddings, and she was a really good cook. My mom, we never bought store-made mayonnaise. My mom would make mayonnaise.
Oh, wow, nice.
There was always cookies in the jar, and that was homemade. And, so a lot of the tips and smaller things I got from my mom, like I said earlier, but it was so, my dad and all his brothers could cook. Both my grannies cooked well, and my cousins cooked, and everybody just cooked, and it was so natural at a point to go into cooking. However, I had my very first boyfriend. He died in a car accident my year when I was in matric, and it was always set out that Jason and I would get married. And his parents, and I live in New Zealand, they would always say, you guys must look after each other and, get married, and we'll give you the best wedding and the best honeymoon and all those 120 things. And he said, because he was older, and he said, okay, go study, and then when you're done, we can get married. And then when he died, I realized that he actually wanted me to study in the food or hospitality industry. And that's actually how I landed up going into that. Because we had obviously discussion. He says, you cook so well, why don't you become a chef? And we can travel the world when you become a chef, and those kind of things. And then I think naturally it just I went into it, and plus I didn't work that hard at school to get into law school. But yeah, and I'm not sorry today, but it's also not a job for those who are trying or wanting to be a chef. You've got to have the passion for it firstly, because passion is the one thing that's going to drive you when you're standing on your feet at 4 o'clock in the morning. Exactly,
those long days.
Those long hours, those 18, 19-hour days where you feel you literally can't, and you can't do it forever. You literally, maybe when you get to an executive chef level, where you don't really have to cook that often, but you cannot, arthritis sets in, your back pains, it's incredible. You can't really do it post 40 odd years if you're not,
I know that a lot of chefs have dreams of opening their own restaurant and something like that. Is that something you would want to do?
No, not at this stage. Maybe when I was younger, I had a dream of having a little small holding with like 6 or 10 huts around it, and the main venue where you could do weddings and entertainment, and then have like a Sunday lunch type of thing, and work for events only kind of thing. Restaurants, no. I don't think I've ever been wanting a restaurant. I would love to have gotten a Michelin star, but I don't think I would do a restaurant per se.
But you do have a catering business, so just tell us about the business.
So we have a catering business run with my husband and I. I think it's 17 years old now. It's called Vibe Events. So we do basically that. We cater for corporates. And
so literally just after you guys got married, you started this business.
And we work together. So we work together, we live together for 18 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so it's...
how's that going? Should I not go?
It's natural because both our parents did that as well. So we had that example.
I was just looking at him. It's behind the camera there.
So both our parents did it, so it was kind of natural. Yes, we do have a power struggle at times, especially when we in the building. We had before COVID, we had a massive 500 square meter building, I think it was. We had about 30 chefs at a point working for us. Wow. And you know, that kind of power struggle comes in. And a lot of times for me, it was always my marriage came before money and business.
I think if you have that, it's a, you know...
Yeah.
Some people say from a business point of view, maybe that's not a good idea. But then the flip side of it is marriage not more important?
Yeah.
You know,
my relationship with Gary was a lot more important than our business because I knew...
So you've got to put each other first.
Yes. And for me, it was perfect in a sense of, I'm not a paper kind of girl, you know, I'm very sums and quotes and, oh gosh, you know, it's just not me.
But he's more the admin side. Yeah.
He's the admin side. I think if it wasn't for him, or I can't say I think, I know if it wasn't for him, I would have been bankrupt a few times because I just love buying things for people and giving things to people, and you know, I would have no money, to be very honest.
You're similar to me.
Yeah, I would just give it all away. It makes me happy when I do give something to somebody or make something, you know. So we balance each other out well, and it's different from having a business partner where you need to constantly check, you know, the accountant needs to check is the money. We got one goal. We've got a similar goal. So I never need to go check in the bank accounts what's going on. I would just tell him, I'm going to the shops, is there money? Yeah. You know, you just got to make sure when I swipe there's money. I don't want to be embarrassed.
I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, just make sure that there's money. But it works well. Yeah. But you have to literally, we did a competition on SABC3 a while back called Think Big. And they asked me the very same question. What is more important? And I said, my marriage. So there was times where we get into this power struggle and he would probably say, yeah, you don't want to be at work, you come late to work. One, you are there. I've got qualified chefs and I only worked with qualified chefs. I've got an executive chef, so I'm just there to oversee. And I would get in my car and go home if there's an argument, or and we never argue about the couch has to be at a certain glass standing. We don't argue about things that happen in our home. We argue about work. So I think that's a little bit about us.